It is an understatement to say that computers are becoming an integral part of modern Western society. You're definitely watching this on a computer, and if you come from any average household, you have at least 30 processing units within about 20 meters of you right now. As these chips get cheaper and more available, their integration into simple devices such as shower heads and mirrors only become more likely. But even liberal estimates suggest that only around 4% of us can answer rudimental questions on what a CPU is or how it works, let alone how it gives you something like Facebook. Don't get me wrong, I get levels of abstraction is what separates us from the apes. I don't expect people to learn what a crown gear is before they get their driver's license, nor should anyone have to write a critical analysis of Taming of the Shrew before they experience the art that is 10 Things I Hate About You. I also get that not everyone wants to be a computer scientist. I mean, I've almost got a degree in computer science and I don't want to be a computer scientist. But I'm going to argue that there are specific logic skills that are taught in something like programming class that transcend that specific field. I've always wished there was a way to convey those technical yet powerful logical constructions without forcing someone to sit through a Programming 101 lecture. And Human Resource Machine is a puzzle game that might just be that answer. Coming from the same guys who brought us World of Goo, Human Resource Machine is a puzzle game of approximately 35 puzzles, where the player must take a list of inputs, operate on them, and then send them into the outputs. The tasks start as something as simple as doubling, or as you can see here, for each 2 inputs I have to output the bigger one. The trick is you're only allowed to use extremely simple operations. You can only add 2 numbers, for example, or store one on the floor, or you can jump to another part of your instructions, but not really much more. So if you're part of that 4% I mentioned earlier, you might have already worked out that those are assembly language opcodes. But for the rest of us, the game is providing a visual metaphor for the process that computers use to handle the bits and bytes that ultimately allow us to watch Gangnam Style 2.5 billion times. Human Resource Machine models processor registers, memory addresses, handling interrupt errors, redundant cases, and more without ever saying one of those words. In fact, they've even dressed it up in typical Kyle Gabler style characters and visual effects, presenting what I would consider extremely complex concepts as inviting and non-threatening. They even go as far as slicing simple story into the puzzle with the occasional cutscene, which is really worth mentioning because it's 7 out of 10 funny, and it really contributes to the experience of the game and could have easily been overlooked by the developer as something as unnecessary or extra.
Back to work, everyone.
Human Resource Machine isn't a good game because it teaches you how to code in assembly, even though that would make it a good game. Human Resource Machine is a good game because it teaches you how to take a problem that seems impossible and modulate it into smaller, manageable ones. It teaches you how to make smart, calculated trade-offs. Is it worth creating a separate system to handle those cases that come up 1% of the time? Is it better to perform a task as quickly as possible or using the least amount of resources? A study came out from the University of Bern, Switzerland in 2012 that showed solving these sorts of problems built neural connections and fluid intelligence. And I will never be able to stress how important this is for people. Other studies have shown that there are connections between an increase in fluid intelligence and everything. Better driving, better memory, lower chance of being manipulated, greater creativity, humor, empathy for Christ's sake. And I'm not saying that Human Resource Machine is some sort of magic flying projectile. These are things you work at over many years, and there are many ways to develop these sort of skills. But I am saying that what this game offers, and an enjoyable way too, makes it well worth the $10 price tag. And if you're a sort of person who's already into logic puzzles, I would strongly recommend taking a look, because the speed and the memory optimizations will get you. If you're anything like me, you'll be up at 3 AM, computer science textbooks out, having just dropped too many hours to count into a level, optimizing every single section of your program down to make sure that it only takes something like 24 commands, just in time to lose your shit when you find out that someone did it in 23. Human Resource Machine spits in the face of traditional education, and this is why I'm so excited about video games. It's one thing to educate through regurgitation of terms and methods. This is what this is called, and this is how I did this. But we are on a whole nother level when we can create an experience that allow a player to learn those skills implicitly while also having fun and hearing about how robots are taking over the world. You're learning without even realizing. That's the future, and anyone too stupid to see that is just going to be left behind.